Everybody listen to We're Not Wizards, because we are the best, and we're not wizards, no matter what anybody says. Goodbye.
Hello and welcome to another episode of We're Not Wizards. My name's Richard. I'll be your host for May. Because it's starting to get sunny outside. It's starting to get better outside. It means going for those walks. They're not that bad, you know. There's the occasional bit of rain, but you know, even nowadays, I don't mind having a little bit of a walk in the rain. You know, just feeling a little bit in my face. You know, I don't, however, want to spend that much time in the rain. I don't really want to make a spectacle of myself or even a spectre of myself, because I have somebody here who's going to make a spectre of themselves. It's Marc Specter from the Grand Gamers Guild.
Hey there,
He's here.
thanks for having me.
Hey. It's always good to speak to you.
I appreciate that. It's good to speak to you too.
Let's chat about things. Let's talk about things. We can get straight. I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to be kind and I'm going to be polite, and I'm going to ask how you are doing yourself at this moment.
Sure. If you're talking about physiologically, I am lucky and happy to say that I am happy and healthy. Everyone around me is happy and healthy. And, you know, as the world sort of goes up in flames, I know there are many who can't say that. So, you know, I'm a blessed man, quite frankly, even with all the chaos. And I try to recognize that as much as possible.
Have you been eating your Tide Pod sandwiches as suggested? And
no, Tide, nor any other chemicals will not keep me healthy. Physical distancing will, at least I believe that. So, but we'll see as Michigan returns to a semi-active state what happens here.
Yeah, no, it will definitely be interesting. Last time we spoke a long time ago, and we spoke about the Artemis project, and then we spoke a little bit about Endangered, and Endangered is now here. And at the time, it went on to do pretty decently in Kickstarter. Where are you with kind of Endangered, kind of at the moment? Sure.
So Endangered would officially be in distribution at this point if the world wasn't in the state it was in. For good or ill, and believe it or not, there is good to come out of this. Right now, Endangered sits in PSI's warehouse waiting for the distribution chain to open back up. And once it does, it will be out there in the wild, pun intended, to thrill and delight animal lovers and co-op lovers alike. I field an email at least a couple times a week asking me when people are going to see Endangered on the store shelves. And I keep telling them it's coming. But the other half of that is that, and this is the good part of things, that my web store has actually never been busier. I have people picking up Endangered who didn't support it on the Kickstarter. I have people who supported the Kickstarter who suddenly find themselves clamoring for the Giant Panda module expansion. And we also have some promos and stuff that we're getting out there, things we would have given away at conventions. And so really Endangered is, even under the circumstances, Endangered is firing on all cylinders. And I'm really proud of that game, because I appreciate you saying that it did fairly well on Kickstarter, but I'll be honest and say that I tried to keep an upbeat tone, but that campaign was a struggle every day of the week. We had so many hopes and we had so many goals, so many things that we did not bring to fruition in the campaign, that I'm hoping that the positive Dice Tower review and I get emails also with people telling me how much they love it. hopefully all that can, even without a convention season, can build a buzz, and that we can manifest more content for it that will allow us to reprint the base game. Because of course, people need that in order to play all the expansion content.
How's Joe? Have you been speaking to Joe about it? Because I'm aware, because I saw him. I think I mentioned just before we started recording that Mike Delisio was talking some sugar about kind of Endangered, and him
Yep.
being kind of part of the Dice Tower now. What's Joe? Have you been speaking to Joe about how things have been kind of picking up?
Oh
the
yeah,
game now?
I almost feel bad for Joe, because Joe put his heart and soul into Endangered for years, right? And then we signed the game, and he continued to put his heart and soul into it, making sure that it was the very best game that it could be. And like I said, the campaign was difficult. It's very niche product. It's very different from most of the things that are on your game store shelves. And now, we brought it to life. We realized the campaign in a physical product, and now the pandemic hits. And I don't mean to belittle that state of things. Hopefully, no one takes my words that way. But I just feel like this was Joe's convention season to shine, and the rug has sort of been ripped out from under him. However, as I indicated, the response to Endangered has been fantastic. I just got a Kickstarter comment from a backer who said, "I have never played a game 10 times in a row," or something like that. It was just hugely complimentary that he was pouring this much time and effort into playing Endangered again and again and again. And so, to actually answer your question, I have been in touch with Joe. I am working on keeping him very busy, because I feel like Endangered deserves its chance in the sun again. And that with all the positive buzz we've had around it, even without a convention season, that if we have the tools to strike while the iron's hot, we might be able to revisit Endangered, bring forth more content, and that hopefully to the delight of new backers as well as existing backers. I mean, the Dice Tower did the review, and Z Garcia's harshest comment was, "I wish there was more for this game." So, I mean, yeah, Joe had been working on at least half a dozen scenarios prior to the launch, and they were in various stages of development. And we released the pandas as an expansion, and sea turtles are done. And there's just tons more animals that we can include, and a lot of levers and mechanisms for us to pull. So, it will be coming. Fingers crossed, it will be coming.
How's the pandemic kind of affected you in terms of your normal marketing year? Because I think one of the things that I've seen a lot of people going like bummed out, I'm missing another convention. But I think also one of the direct effects of that is there's a lot of businesses like yourself who would have been playing the convention scene, who would have been using it to help kind of promote stuff, who would have been using it to kind of, as you said, get kind of Joe kind of in front of as many people as possible so he could lay as much sugar on Endangered as possible. But have you had to have some kind of introspective marketing meetings to say, well, what are we going to do now for the rest of the year? Because Essen's spiel has said, oh, we're postponing until kind of, I thought till 2021. And I saw some people said, oh, that looks like the same date. And they went, oh, no, it's the following year. So if you had to kind of sit down and go, right, okay, what are we going to do in order to keep kind of momentum going and traffic coming and general interest in ourselves?
Yeah, it's definitely been tough. I mean, as the conventions sort of fell like dominoes one by one, Origins, Gen Con, Essen, and UKGE is officially moved, but who knows if they'll be able to. No, you know what? I lied. That's not true. UKGE did cancel. See, I got it all bungled. The only convention still standing in my big convention year is PAX Unplugged. And again, we just, there hasn't been word one from them yet. So we'll see what happens there. No one is ever going to accuse me of being a savvy social media marketer. And on a personal level, I'm also not the loudest voice in the room. Sure, you can, without too much difficulty, think about the people in the board gaming sphere who are really good at being the loudest person in the room.
Yeah.
And also really good at doing all that social media branding.
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
I'm not one of them. I do the best I can. I'm still, for all intents and purposes, a one-man show when it comes to that kind of thing. And it has been a challenge, but I'm just trying to use Twitter, trying to use Instagram, trying to use Facebook, and not be not be horrible about it, but just put out things to remind people that we're here. And obviously when third parties do it, when the Dice Tower does their review, I was
Yeah.
absolutely thrilled that Tom from the Dice Tower, of course, did a live playthrough of Endangered as part of a solo gaming marathon. That was amazing. And so people are able to see a live playthrough. Z Garcia did a review, and there's just a lot of sort of independent buzz. And I've reached out to some non-game industry media, and while I don't want to say anything until these things come to fruition, let's just say, Endangered touches a topic that I think is important to many people who operate outside of traditional gamers. And it's been super hard crossing that gap. But hopefully we'll do it in the not too distant future. And again, hopefully that feeds into more buzz and better sales. And then once
Mm-hmm.
distribution and game stores open again, the game will be there waiting for them.
I mean, Wingspan itself has kind of really kind of crossed that kind of divide now, isn't it? I mean, it's now, the last thing I saw, it was turning into like a Switch game, so you're going to
Yeah.
be able to play it on the
Yep.
Nintendo
Yeah, Jamie
Switch.
Stegmaier and Stonemaier Games are absolutely amazing at marketing. I mean, better
Yeah.
than I think I can ever hope to be. Right before we got on, an industry friend posted on a thread, if you could launch your own camp, like if you could avoid crowdfunding and launch a game, would you? And
Mhm.
I dashed this out right before we started talking. If I could avoid Kickstarter and still think I would be successful, I absolutely would.
Yeah.
With no disrespect to Kickstarter, it's an amazing platform. It has allowed my company to exist. If I could get my Kickstarter audience to visit my website, and if I could charge them less because I don't have to give up a cut to Kickstarter, and if
Mhm.
I could, pocket a little bit more because I don't have to give a cut to Kickstarter, I mean, that would be tremendous. But Kickstarter is just such an amazing platform. It's so dynamic. It has its issues, don't get me wrong, but it is still a powerhouse. Even in contrast to every other, crowdfunding platform that people have tried to launch. And I mean, so much so that even the big boys in the industry that don't need crowdfunding put themselves there to be seen. They say, yes, I am an independent company that could do this on my own, but I'm more than happy to give up almost 10% to Kickstarter and the credit card companies because I know I'll do better there. I mean, if that isn't a juggernaut, I don't know what is.
Well, I've seen this. I mean, I see this in the Amazon argument. Now, that's what I do for a job. So I get a lot of people that say, well, I'm going to market my website alongside kind of selling stuff on Amazon. You come back to them 3 months down the line, they're saying, well, it's like, well, what are you doing? It's like, well, I'm doing most of my stuff through Amazon. And it's like, well, what about the fees you were complaining about? It's like, well, when I looked at the marketing costs, actually, people just being able to find the product there and buy it straight away is a huge kind of thing. And I think that's where Kickstarter's got such an infrastructure in place in terms of its ecosystem with regards to the people that will go on to Kickstarter and will look at stuff and will kind of back kind of projects. I can see why, Come On and Mythic Games and everyone like that, come back a kind of again and again and again because it's there, because it's almost like that is your marketing. You can put, if you've done 4 or 5 campaigns, it's very, very easy for you to send out a newsletter which hits every single person that's been in that campaign, and then get them to, entice them to kind of come along. It obviously emphasizes the kind of the gap that you get once you become a behemoth, and then when you're starting out you're in the middle size of things, because I can see the gap between the big guys and the kind of the middle guys and everybody underneath is becoming kind of bigger and bigger in terms of the kind of the the overall coverage. But it kind of is, it is what it is. There's not an awful lot you can kind of do about that. In terms of further electronic stuff, have you kind of been looking at things like Tabletopia and Tabletop Simulator and Board Game Arena and all these other kind of virtual spaces where people can play the games? Have you been kind of exploring that for the likes of Endangered or the Artemis Project or even Endeavour and things like that at all?
So yeah, absolutely. So first of all, someone some time ago actually put a mod onto Tabletop Simulator for Endeavor Age of Sail. People seem to be enjoying that, although I didn't personally have much to do with it. He just implemented as a fan. Recently, yes, we actually do have the last game we kickstarted, Gorinto, is actually on Tabletop Simulator, and another, I don't know what the right word for it is, but another program, another app called Tabletop Playground. So you can actually go and play Gorinto there straight away. If you search it within Steam, you'll find it. We are working on Endangered in getting that implemented there. And I actually ran into a very enthusiastic backer who actually offered to implement it for me. And so she's made some beautiful, using our graphics and everything, she's made a beautiful implementation. I actually was at a small e-convention over the weekend called Condemic, played through 2 seamless games of Gorinto with some folks, and got many compliments over how it operated mechanically as well as how great it looked visually. So we're super proud of that. And the Artemis Project, I have another friend working on that for me. I guess what I will say, for what it's worth, is, and I'm going to plug here just shamelessly. If obviously the game is out there, it's free, but I do want to compensate the people behind it, the designer as well as the mod programmer. So if anyone has any interest in putting some money in their pockets, and I put this in my email newsletter the other day, they can PayPal money to grandgamersguild@gmail.com, and I'm going to get that money over to those folks. So just because, I don't have a $50,000 budget to implement an app on an iPhone, but yeah, but I do have the ability to pass along donations to those folks. So yeah.
That's an interesting point of view, because I know that when I was speaking to Suzanne Sheldon when they were on the show like a couple of weeks back, and we kind of brought up the topic about Asmodee kind of taking down mods from places like Tabletopia and Tabletop Simulator. And their view was, I was kind of like, well, maybe it's not the right time. But Suzanne says, well, if people are protecting their IP, it's maybe a case of if they have to bring down like an Imperial Assault mod on Tabletop Simulator, then it's maybe not because they have to do it, it's because they've had Disney lawyers saying, you've got an unauthorized mod of our IP on Tabletop Simulator, you better go ahead and kind of take it down. And yet your view is, I'm not only happy about there being a mod on Tabletop Simulator, I'm actively going to say, well, look, if we're going to financially contribute to these people, then you'd be kind of be willing to do that. So it's kind of interesting, the kind of the different viewpoints that I'm hearing regarding kind of the mods on Tabletop Simulator itself is kind of very, very interesting to me.
I mean, I'm a company, and at the end of the day, as an operating company, I need to be profitable. If I could monetize it systematically, I totally would. But you could spend all day fighting the folks who take the time to simply implement a mod with or without permission, and short of having Disney's lawyers, like I guarantee you Steam would kowtow to Disney's lawyers, but I don't think I don't think they'll turn their head if Grand Gamers Guild lawyers speak up. So, and we're in a very particular time, and I didn't have to pay to have this person do the work for me. She did it voluntarily. So if I can serve the backers, and I could create more fans, and I can make everyone happy as a function of that, then it's kind of a situation where why not? And everything's perspective. In a decade, if I'm a behemoth of a company, maybe my perspective will be different. But it just seems like a good, fun, right thing to do now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Has it changed your perspective at all regarding kind of like preview copies and review copies? Because one of the things and this is my thinking behind it. I think I've seen you on the board, the Facebook board game and reviewers kind of group.
Yep.
And you know what happens? Somebody will say, right, I've got a Kickstarter coming along. We're looking for people to preview the game or review the game and, produce some content to it. And we'll be sending out copies kind of X, Y, and Z. And what happens is somebody posts that and you get kind of 50 or 60 kind of people going, oh yeah, me, I'll have it. Me, mine, kind of thing. Whereas now, quite interesting, what I'm seeing is I'm seeing kind of people kind of doing the same thing, but saying, but I've got a mod on Tabletop Simulator or I've got it on Tabletopia. And the number of people who are shouting to take part in it isn't as much. And it's kind of interesting to me. And I'm just wondering, is that a kind of because I guess it comes down to time and investment and how long it would take you to put the game together. But going forward, would it be a case, would you consider putting like maybe simpler games on Tabletopia and Tabletop Scotland to allow people to kind of preview them without you having to physically commit to getting kind of prototype kind of copies made?
All right, so that's an interesting question because it's so much bigger. At the end of the day, if I thought I could get good reviews, and I don't mean good reviews in terms of the content, I mean, solid reviews by good folks, and I was able to get a prototype implemented on an electronic platform, I probably would. However, I'll say this. Board games, we play board games for a number of reasons. A lot of it is being around a table physically with people, touching a physical object, the tactility, the sound, the whole experience. I'm not an electronic gamer. And while I had a great time playing Gorinto at the online convention I attended this past weekend, it's not really the way I want to engage. The other thing that I would come back to with respect to Gorinto specifically is I lost count of the number of reviewers who said, this prototype is so amazing, I can't wait to see what the finished product looks like. And if they were playing it electronically, that, I guess the ability to say that is lost because they're all not touching it. They're not engaging with it. Yeah. And also, I guess I would say one other thing is that the level of fiddliness of a game, I think, can be affected positively or negatively with an electronic implementation. I'll be honest, I expected Gorinto to be a lot more of a fiddly experience playing it in Tabletop Simulator, and I was really quite surprised at how incredibly smooth it was. So yeah, I don't ever see a time where I will abandon physical prototypes and move only to electronic prototypes. I don't think it's the experience that board gamers want. It's not the experience that I want for myself or for them. So even though it's costly to move those copies around, I think it's worth doing. And I agree that, again, using Gorinto as my example, we were really proud of our prototype. I was, again, I was just really pleased at how many people were super impressed with the prototype we presented to them and use that as an extrapolation to say, I see what Grand Gamers Guild has done in the past. I can't wait to see this thing realized.
Would it, on the other side of that, would you use it as a prototyping tool then at all, kind of keeping it kind of in-house to allow people to kind of make it easier for them to see a visual representation of a finished game? Because one of the things I was aware of, I played Prisma Arena from Hub Games, and I virtually sat down with Rory O'Connor and we played through a couple of matches of Prisma Arena, and he was able to show me kind of what the finished product was kind of look like, even though I can couldn't play it in a kind of tactile sense, like you said. But he was able to say, this is what it's actually going to do when it's finished, because we've just got all the print files, and we've been able to take the print files and we've been able to dump it into here and create kind of all the things. Would that be an option? Maybe not to say to a previewer, here's the game, but maybe in-house use it as a kind of a tool to allow you to kind of see if concepts and things like that would work as well.
I guess I would say if I was going to engage a prototype, for all the reasons previously stated, I would probably want a physical copy.
Right. Okay.
However, if a designer had gone to the trouble of putting one in place electronically, if I was genuinely interested, I will give it a shot. But I would almost, not having done this, I'm sort of guessing, but I would almost expect to, if I enjoyed the experience, to request a physical copy after the fact.
Yeah, there's something still very, very much, regardless of the number of times I'm going to play the kind of the electronic copy. If I really, if I want the game, if I like the game, I think I want the physical copy in my hands, because that's the reason that I have a very active kind of video game collection. And it's why I have a very active kind of board game collection, and the two don't meet in the middle. I very, very much like the analog kind of the feel, the kind of, this is going to sound weird, the smell, Mark.
Oh no, it's not weird. I like
the smell of a good, there's nothing nicer when you've cracked open a rule book for the first time and you've kind of got that fresh kind of ink smell. Speaking of Gorinto, just for a couple of minutes, because it actually did quite well.
It did. I was super proud of how well we did with, a game that was essentially an abstract. The question is, what were people able to connect to? And I wish I had that answer, but yeah, a good number did.
Because it went on to do, it almost went on to do like 9 times. It's kind of like Fund and Go, and it was it appeared to be like a very kind of simple concept. Where are you at the moment with regards to that? Where is that in terms of its kind of production? As I take it, has the pandemic kind of affected its kind of timetable for production?
The pandemic has not affected the timetable for Gorinto, thank goodness. The campaign shut down right before things really got heated up, and and so we've been able to continue the process of production without any issues so far. Where it's specifically at is that we are waiting on a visual sample of the coin that will be included in the Kickstarter editions, and shortly after that, the factory should be able to produce a complete sample of the proof, and get it to me, and then we should be off and running. The translations are done. Again, there's going to be 4 rule books in the box: English, French, German, and Spanish. Yeah. And we're turning this one super fast. And this just goes back to the way I chose to approach the campaign, which I term a clean campaign, is the way I like to approach it. I like to make a full presentation of the game, no stretch goals. This is the best, most polished, fully realized edition we could possibly bring you. Short of producing it in platinum or something like that. So yeah, and we were able to do that. And, there's been very little or no development on the back end, very little or no art needed to be done on the back end. And, we'll be off to the races very soon.
One of the things that comes up with kind of Kickstarters that are coming up, and also just in general, kind of games companies like yourself in general, is with the landscape kind of changing. And it is, I've played lots of board games now, but I've certainly not played the games I would normally play. And a lot of my games are now kind of like pretty family orientated, unless there's like solo modes. I've played a couple of more what I would call complicated games. In terms of kind of like going forward, and what if this is going to kind of continues to be the norm, if things are going to be kind of locked down, are you have you got plans for no in terms of things like content creation and stuff like that? Are there things that the YouTubers and the Twitchers and the Instagram folk what they can do to help you if if the situation continues to be the norm that we kind of get a wave and then everything quiets down, then we get kind of another wave until the vaccine comes along. Is there stuff that kind of like YouTubers and things like that can do to kind of help you as a company kind of grow and expand and help keep the word out that you would like them to kind of approach you and help you with?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I mean, I'm not like a ruptured dam, able and willing to give away copies willy nilly. But if
Yeah,
someone
yeah.
has built up a brand and has an audience and they're enthusiastic about the content of a game called Endangered, I mean, I can't guarantee they're going to love it, but if it's the kind of thing
Mm-hmm.
that they normally do, and it's the kind of thing that their audience is interested and willing to take a look at, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm more than happy to get more copies out there and keep the supply of content going in hopes that it reaches someone who then wants to go to the website and bring it home.
Are you wanting different content as well? Do you want people to be imaginative and things like that? I mean, is there things that do you just want somebody kind of here's the game, this is how you play the game, and this is what I think? Are you kind of wanting people to be a bit more imaginative with the content? Do you mind if people kind of make just a review? Do you like if we would make content based on the game as well? Not necessarily something that explains the gameplay, but something that was just, mucks about with Endangered, creates content, funny content, serious content, just something a little bit different. Would you be open to something for that? Or would you prefer to have kind of, here's some play, here's some gameplay, here's how you play the game, tutorials,
Without,
here's some opinion
yeah,
pieces.
without really knowing what they would be after, you know what I mean? I'll say
Mm,
a solid maybe on that.
mm,
Um, a lot of it would just come down to the quality of their previously produced content. If I saw a fistful of that and was like, yeah, that's well done,
yeah.
then yeah, I'd be open to a conversation.
All I'm just thinking about is the opening shot of me next to a box of Endangered, and I have got makeup on, so I've got a face like a tiger.
Look, if you want to put on tiger
That's
makeup
all I'm thinking.
to push Endangered, then yeah, we can talk about getting you a copy. You know,
So
I
I
will
just
say this. I don't know where. Obviously, you're in the UK, and I don't know what a lot of your listenership is like. But um, you know, anyway, I have copies sitting in the UK too. When I talk about distribution or lack thereof. Anyway, it's just kind of funny that I have these copies sitting all over the world and not able to get them out there. But yeah, if you have a well cultivated UK based audience, then sure, go for it. We'll work something out.
the irony is that the majority of my listeners are based in the States.
Oh
Who
well,
knew?
that's funny. Oh well, I have copies sitting here too. So whatever.
um, what's the plans for the future? You mentioned Endangered. I mean, are you still, as a business, are you still open for people kind of pitching ideas and things like that
Yeah,
as
absolutely.
well?
So we're still taking pitches, albeit very selectively. My queue is really, really long. Um, I have, let's see here. So, what we're hoping for, and this may or may not happen, so don't take this to the bank, is
Mm.
more content for Endangered, more content for Gorinto, if you can believe it or not, more content for the Artemis Project. And then I have signed a game called Aldabas, which is a puzzly tableau builder designed by Josh
Oh.
Mills and Nat Levan, which I'm super excited about. It's one of those games where you look and say, oh, it's a deck of cards. And then you start interacting with that deck of cards and
Mm-hmm.
you're just sort of chasing after your goals and putting that puzzle together. And man, it is fantastic. Obviously, I think it's fantastic. I'm excited about putting my money behind it. And then there's at least another 3 to 4 projects that are serious contenders. But at some point, I either need to really scale up so I can be a multi-project company, or I don't know, figure something out, because right now I'm still plugging along and I don't have that many projects that overlap.
Mm-hmm.
I only have so much money, I only have so much time, and I only have so much bandwidth. And I feel we do a good job with the things we put out. I
Mm-hmm.
want to make sure that we can keep up that level of quality for everything we do.
Are you having discussions about kind of retail distribution, or is that just is that seriously kind of, I really need to wait and see kind of what happens over the next kind of 6 months before we even approach that kind of subject?
Well, generally speaking, I am with PSI. So once the chain gets moving again, we will be
Mm.
in distribution. I mean, Artemis Project is already out there. It's
Yeah.
just, it's just a shame that, Endangered has been stymied because of the situation. I will say, you had asked if Gorinto had been affected by the pandemic. The
Yeah.
biggest thing that has been affected by the pandemic is the future plans, because getting Endangered out there in front of people, and that can, through stores and conventions, will provide, but it's just going to take longer now, the money to make these next projects happen. So I just
Mm-hmm.
need to be super careful about my decisions, because, I'm still a project to project company. I don't have a giant pot of money that I'm sitting on to pump
Yeah.
out endless numbers of games.
Have you are you toying with doing any kind of designs yourself, or kind of in house again, or anything like that at all? Or are you still kind of purely focused on kind of people pitching to you?
I'm definitely focused on people pitching to me. I am no designer. I tried my hand at that once, and yeah, it's not going to happen again. I don't have the stick to
Mm-hmm.
itiveness.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Um, kind of what what are you doing? Putting the company to one side. Are you working from home on a day to day basis still? Are you able to go into the office? Are you able to meet up with anybody? Are you still kind of pretty much on lockdown just now?
So I mean, I don't have a full time job. My the Grand Gamers Guild is. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm at my computer working away every day. I share custody of my kids, and so I have
Mm.
sort of two patterns to my life.
Yeah.
I have the non custody weeks, and I have the custody weeks. And when I have the kids, we exercise together every day. We get a game in every
Mm.
day. We watch a movie every day. We pretty much take breakfast, lunch, and dinner together.
Mm.
And they're pretty diligent about doing their homework. That's still being kept up on by their school. So we kind of bounce in and out of together activities, and them on their own and me on my own, and manage to get it all done every single day.
Yeah, we're still the same. We're kind of homeschooling, but I'm kind of working from home as well. And word around the campfire was that basically the boss has said, better get used to this because it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of opened their eyes to saying, do we need everybody kind of in the same room at all?
Right.
Kind of
Yeah.
thing.
I mean,
It's,
ideally, the world will use this to affect a sea change in lots of things that were assumed and broken.
yeah, yeah. Um, I kind of don't miss the commute. I miss listening to podcasts. Yeah, I think my podcast listening has gone down a little
Yes.
bit because it's difficult to work and listen to podcasts at the same time. And I
Agreed.
think you try at the beginning, you go, oh great, I'm working at home. I can listen to kind of all of this stuff. But when you're kind of when I'm doing what I'm doing, which is part of what I'm doing, is I'm copywriting kind of
Ah,
content for people. It's kind of like you end up half writing down some kind of sentence that Ben Maddox or
yep.
Dan, Dan, Dan Hughes or someone else has kind of been talking to me, and it's like, oh no, I can't put that kind of in. To you, was it just because you were based because of where you were, based before? Has nothing kind of really changed except that more people are kind of now going, oh, I'm working from home as well? Have you seen has there been less disruption on a day-to-day basis then than normally?
I mean, speaking for myself, yes. Speaking for others, I know a good number of people who are working from home. I know a good number of people who are not working as a function of things. So I guess it's just very particular to, what your role in society was, and how it was or wasn't able to transform.
Yeah. And are you kind of taking breaks from things just to kind of make sure you're keeping kind of mental health kind of good and stuff like that? Because one thing I've noticed myself is that I'm being very, very strict that when I finish work at 5 o'clock or 5:30 or whatever, I'm finished work. I'm not kind of keeping the laptop kind of open. I'm actually packing the laptop away. It goes into another room. The power supply kind of comes out, so I can't kind of sneakily kind of open it as well.
Right. I guess what I'll say is this. So yes and no. What I mean by that is I usually start my day around 5:30 in the morning, and I complete a whole bunch of things by about 11. And then I very deliberately break and have lunch and play a game and then come back to work for a couple hours. And then I very deliberately break and have dinner and spend time with my kids and then come back to work for a couple hours. So I pattern my day very differently than most people do, but I do try to be very strict about the time parameters that I put around it. Because you're right, I could spend all night online mucking around with emails that come in and things like that. At some point, you got to put it down.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you as your own kind of personal kind of consumption of kind of board game media, has that changed at all? I know I mentioned that I'm listening to less podcasts. Are you is it just kind of stayed the same because nothing much has changed for you? Or have you
No,
noticed?
less podcasts because I mean the weather is still in the middle of transitioning, so a lot of the listening I would have done on my walks is not able to happen. Yeah, my consumption is definitely down. I mean, even if I wasn't driving places for myself, I don't have a daily commute and things like that. Not driving my kids to school anymore. All of my trips have been consolidated. I don't visit the post office, but more than once, maybe twice a week, and now I bang everything out in one fell swoop. Every shopping trip, every post office visit that I have to do, I do it all at once. Which means I'm in the car for much less time. It also means that I've been very fortunate only have to fill up my car once a month for the past 2 months. I'm not complaining about that. Let me tell you, that's been nice.
I'm not complaining about that as well. I mean, before this all kicked off, petrol was at like £1.37, or probably if I put it in American, it's probably about $1.67 kind of litre. And I did a double take because the last time I drove past it, it dropped to less than £1 for a litre.
That's amazing.
I don't remember. I kind of like. I was like, I'm potentially tempted to take a picture of this, post it on Instagram.
I actually did that the other day. I took a picture and sent it to a friend. So yeah, I was like, I cannot believe this. This is amazing.
I was like, this is the best meal I've seen all day. That's why I'm posting it on Instagram. The hottest dish, because I just couldn't believe it. Because I think I remember the last time like the price of gas was so low. It was like I might have been in my 30s.
Yeah, it's easily been a decade since. That.
It's just been absolutely crazy. Thank you very, very much for coming on, Mark. I know we kind of jumped back and forth, but it's just it's strange times. That means strange kind of conversations. But
it is. It's hard to be. Well, I shouldn't say it's hard to be excited. I have a lot of stuff in the works, but it's trying to keep people aware and hopefully get them enthusiastic and help them cope in as best way as possible if they think my games will fit the bill for their household.
Yeah, it's just as I say, it's kind of strange times, and it's when you can't necessarily plan as well as you want to. And I know a lot of goal-orientated people have really struggled over the last couple of months because they had some very kind of set, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do the next thing, and now they're kind of like, that's what they look forward to, and now they're kind of like, I don't know what.
Oh, see, I knew there was an advantage in being aimless and shiftless. I'm so proud of myself now.
You can just put that on your LinkedIn profile.
There you go. Aimless and shiftless. Hire me now.
Shiftless. Exactly. But if people do want to hire you now, where do you exist on the internet webs? Mark?
Can look at everything the guild has to offer at grandgamersguild.com. You can sign up for our newsletter there, check out our products and all the fun stuff that we have going on there. Facebook, just search for Grand Gamers Guild, and then also Twitter and Instagram at Grand Gamers Guild, and you'll find us.
And do that.
Please.
And check it out. Definitely do it. And check out Endangered. Look at Endeavour, for goodness sake. Anything.
Yeah, Endeavour.
You know,
one thing we didn't talk about is Endeavour Age of Expansion just got out as well as part of, just ahead of the pandemic. And the people who Europe is just starting to be fulfilled, but the rest of the world is done. And I think people are enjoying the heck out of that one.
Endeavour was, I had a lot of fun.
Yep.
Playing Endeavour. I loved its little game trays.
Yep. The game trays are absolutely fantastic. There is no doubt.
There is no doubt at all. What we'll do is we'll make sure all those links in the show notes so that we've got notes to show. If you want to keep an eye on what we're up to, go to the internet and search for We're Not Wizards and you'll find us in all the different places. Worn Out Faces. Bright and early for the daily races. And
you're a man of extremes, right? You want 10s and 1s. Love us or hate us. Oh, no, wait.
Yes, every single time. Absolutely. But go to the Apple Podcasts, and if you really, 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 really like us, don't go as high as a 10, because it does make us big-headed, but don't go as low as a 1, even if it's a jokey 1. You're not on Board Game Geek now, folks. Give us something in the middle, like a 5, because it's average, and we're just a little bit average. But the person who's not been average is rather wonderful, rather fantastic, Marc Specter. Thank you again for coming on, Mark. Thank you. And there's only one more thing to do. It's to say it's a goodbye from Mark. So say goodbye, Mark.
Goodbye.
And it's a goodbye from me. Remember, stay safe, roll 6s, make something awful. And until the next time, goodbye.
A wizard is never late. Nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to.